Welcome to Good for Bitcoin, a weekly show recorded live every Friday, where we recap the top events of the week and talk about everything that is good for Bitcoin. If it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. Let's get started.
Content shared on this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The views and opinions expressed are those of the host and guests and do not reflect the official policy or position of any other agency, organization, or company. We encourage you to conduct your own research and consult with a qualified professional before making any financial decisions.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Good for Bitcoin show. It's a weekly show we do every Friday where we recap events of the week, talk about everything that's good for Bitcoin, because if it's built on Bitcoin, then it's good for Bitcoin. My name's Brandon, social media manager here at Trust Machines. Today, I'm joined by my co-host, Shaylee. How you doing, Shaylee?
I'm doing well. It's a beautiful day where I am in Washington, D.C., sunny, and happy it's Friday.
Well, you got the nice weather over there because it is raining here.
That's, yeah. Where are you right now?
I am in the Bay Area, and it's been raining off and on here for the past several weeks. So I'm really looking forward to springtime getting here in full swing and, it being a little bit more sunny.
Amazing. So, what were some of your favorite things that happened this week in the industry?
I don't know about you. I feel like this week went by really fast. There was a lot of things. On the kind of Trust Machines side of things. We released a couple pretty cool features. We had one that we posted yesterday, which is part of the series that we've been doing on different ordinals collections and specifically highlighting the artists behind them. So we did one yesterday with this artist, Buba Viedma, and some really cool stuff. They currently have a few prints that are live on Gamma right now. And it was just really interesting kind of going into, the inspiration, some of the inspiration behind that. And the art is just really, really cool. So definitely recommend. I'll try to pin that to the space here so people can take a look at that and check it out. Let's see. Cool. Just pinned it to the top so you guys can check that out if you haven't seen it. But in other news, we had just some updates come out for Leather. We also released sort of a history of runestones, which ended up really blowing up and being really popular. I think, I feel like we've talked about runestones on every episode of this show, but the people love their runestones. So that ended up being also a very, very popular post for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's all the rage right now, runes. Like, I feel like do you think they're going to surpass ordinals in popularity?
So that's an interesting question. I haven't really heard anybody ask about them surpassing ordinals in popularity. It'd be interesting to see, because we'll be able to track things like the market cap of, we can look at the market cap of all the collections on ordinals, and then we can look at the market cap of all the tokens on runes. So we'll actually be able to track that. So that will be very interesting to watch. Normally I hear, people questioning if it'll, surpass like BRC20. BRC20 definitely has like the first mover advantage, is kind of being the first really big token standard. But I think that flippening could definitely happen. But runes being more popular than inscriptions themselves, I guess we'll have to see. Because that would then combine. Would you include like BRC20 and other sort of like token protocols that are on inscriptions as, part of that, and runes flipping everything?
Yeah. I'm looking at Ordiscan right now. So there are 66,395 K inscriptions, and that's 3,716 BTC worth. I don't know. Ordiscan is, I last was updated 5 minutes ago, so I assume that this is. And then yeah, I'll take a look at where, because it looks like they're tracking runes as well.
So they must, well, if they're
Yeah,
tracking
so that's
runes,
interesting.
they must be tracking maybe like rune stones and other kind of protocols that are sort of promising future rune tokens.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, so that's like 258 million in like ordinals. That's pretty wild.
It's pretty incredible. Yeah, I mean, shout out to Casey, right? That's a pretty amazing feat to basically create an industry. And just the past year has been just so explosive in, people just realizing, more people coming into the space, right? And realizing that you can actually do a lot of really cool stuff on Bitcoin that, a lot of people didn't think was really possible. And, it kind of reminds me. I feel like I've had a couple of conversations this week with folks who are coming into ordinals for the first time, not really realizing that the space has matured as much as it has, especially just like with the tooling and the infrastructure that's available. Like, when ordinals first came out, you pretty much had to use like Sparrow wallet for the most part. We didn't have Leather or any other wallets that were available, and Sparrow is not a ordinals or inscriptions aware wallet. So there was a lot of risks in terms of, you might actually spend your ordinals as fees, or, you might just do some crazy destructive stuff that destroys your your inscriptions or sends them off somewhere. And I think there's still a perception for a lot of folks that aren't following, as closely on other networks, that might still be the case. I just thought that was pretty interesting because I've had to kind of clear some misconceptions a few times this week.
Yeah, I think we're getting more and more of like the EVM folks interested in Bitcoin. For a long, I mean, I'm coming from the EVM space, and for a long time, everyone just thought it was, Bitcoin maxis didn't want anything outside of Bitcoin, the asset class, and that is changing. And you hear a lot of people talking about it. Ordinals were obviously like one of the major movements, like towards these kind of different types of assets on the Bitcoin blockchain. But then there's runes and different types of token standards that are coming out. So it's just, and so many layer twos. It's just amazing to see.
Yeah, I think it's really amazing to see how much can be done with such little, code that really allows you to do these things, right? Like there's no new opcodes on Bitcoin, and yet we have all of these standards that are coming out that are just, very meticulously operating in between these, these parameters that the L1 has that are very restrictive, but people are just finding ways to innovate regardless of that. And it's really cool.
Yeah, so it sounds like the runes docs went live this week, right? What was the chatter around that?
They did, yeah. So Casey published that, posted about that, and I've been trying to comb through it. It's definitely, when it was communicated, I feel like at first, he first kind of blogged about it a few months ago, and it was kind of just an idea, and it seemed fairly simple, but I don't know. I'm reading these runes docs, and they're pretty technical, so I'm having to like read and reread to try to figure out exactly how these things are going to work. But the promise was that they were going to be very simple. So hopefully, maybe I'm just overlooking things a little bit, and I need to spend a little bit more time to comprehend. I don't know. Have you tried to dive through the documentation that got posted yet?
Yeah, so it looks like there's like a does not have a spec lower level kind of set of instructions, and then um just like plain English description, which is easier to read, right? For people who aren't like super deep on the technical side.
Yeah,
So
yeah. How I've kind of interpreted it is like, with like looking at BRC20, right? It's very human readable. Like you can really easily like look at BRC20 inscription and you can know exactly kind of what it's doing. Where runes is kind of more like looking at like an unformatted like CSV file where it's just literally comma separated values that are, they mean something. But like if you're just looking at just the transaction on its own, um, you can't really know from that necessarily what it is. That's my take.
right. Yeah, so they have this new term etching, which I hadn't heard of before. I'm getting used to these things. So etching means that runes come into existence by being etched. So like, you know, etching creates a rune and sets its properties. Once it's set, these properties are immutable even to its etcher.
Hmm.
So like there's a definition around etcher and what etching is, and then I'm sure there are some other pieces down there.
Yeah, etching is sort of like the deploy mechanic that's for like BSC20. Uh, so yeah, like it's basically you're creating the token, the standards of the token. Like what is the supply cap of the token? What is the token called? How many can be minted out at one time? So that aspect I feel like is very similar to BRC20. Um, and actually most of the actions are like, obviously you can transfer runes, you can mint runes, and then you can deploy runes, and the deploy is called etching, like you mentioned. Casey really loves his different kind of very descriptive words like etching and runes, and we talked about all the elemental things last week. I think with runes.
Yeah. I'm like, does etch mean like issuer? Because in TradFi we say issuer, or in within like a token.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
accurate. And yeah, you even have the option to sort of, they even like built it into the protocol where you can pre-mine as an issuer of, a token, right? So if you want to allocate some tokens for yourself, and then make it, so that other people can also do it, or if you want to allocate the entire supply to yourself and maybe you're going to, distribute them in some other way, that would be interesting as well. I feel like for like the airdrops that are being planned, um, like runestones and Arsic and stuff like that, I feel like they probably will have to do it that way. I'm not sure if there's a way to specify, hey, I'm going to create this token, this runes token, and then I'm going to transfer it to this list of addresses, automatically. So I don't know. Yeah, I feel like maybe they'll have to give themselves the full supply and then send it out in sort of a separate transfer transaction, and do it from there.
Nice.
Yeah, so still going through it. I do want to have us do like kind of a breakdown kind of Twitter thread, breaking it down a little bit, trying to make it a little bit more simple. But at the end of the day, with like Leather and all these other apps, right, we want to abstract all that out as much as we can, right? It's designed to be simple for the user. So it's kind of a little bit more, on the developer and on the builder side, it might be a little bit more technical in terms of figuring out some of these challenges with how runes get indexed and making sure that there aren't any cenotaphs, which we have not talked about, which is another crazy word that I also learned recently, which is if you basically have a malformed runes transaction, that those runes just get burned, and then that is called a cenotaph, and that's interesting.
That's really interesting. So, this is part of the reason why we haven't scaled crypto to like your average retail customer. Like, they just, there's too much of the user friction and terminology and all that stuff. I think it's great for the developer space, like to have these things. And I still think we're in the building stage of like making this super accessible to your average person. Because most of the people that know about runes or into runes are like people that I know who work in crypto. My random
Yeah.
friends that don't work in crypto like have never heard of it.
Yeah,
I don't
if
know,
you're not
but
in crypto,
maybe
you don't really care about shit coins.
but runes is not a shit coin.
Well, it's a shitcoin protocol, and I think Casey would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a casino like thing
Yeah, I mean
that
it's
hasn't
just
taken shape yet.
we'll be nice and we'll say that it's a meme coin protocol. How about that?
Yes, let's do yeah, let's do that. It looks like Rocky and the Block is agreeing to
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, we'll be nice to the meme coins out there. We love our meme coins. Anytime that we post about meme coins, everybody engages with us. So we enjoy that. And I have accumulated so many meme coins without even trying. So that's just the nature of of the market that we're in right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been added to some Telegram channels of people trying to like let go of all the shit coins that they've like accumulated over 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
Like trying to liquidate them.
I mean, it's a little easier to do on other chains. I remember like Solana. On Solana, you can burn some of them. You can burn, and you can actually get Solana back by burning them. And there's like mechanisms that are kind of built into the protocol that allow for that, which is interesting. But yeah, Bitcoin doesn't really have that, and I don't think Stacks does either, for some of these. But I think what I'm doing is I'm trying to just like move some of the random stuff that I receive. I'm trying to just move it to like a different wallet or a different account, just so it kind of sits in a different account and doesn't take up a lot of a lot of real estate on my main account. And maybe some of them will go up in value, and that'll be nice. But I'm not going to hold my breath on it.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice when you buy not a meme coin, but like an ordinal that you're excited about, that everyone's in the same community, and
Oh, absolutely.
you get to show it off on your phone. We're not there yet with leather. Hopefully, mobile will come soon.
Mm-hmm.
But it is nice, like from the community aspect, to share each other's, like look at each other's ordinals on phones and stuff like that and talk about them.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It's cool to be able to, one thing that we also announced, very recently with Leather was we integrated with Ord.io a little bit closer. And yeah, it's cool to be able to, share like an Ord.io link, right? To see like, here's all the, ordinals that I've been collecting. So yeah, when I talk about these meme coins, definitely not talking about, ordinals is not part of that. There's so much amazing stuff, and especially community oriented stuff that's happening. That I am, happy to be part of a lot of these things. So it's pretty cool.
So, speaking of community, I feel like a lot of communities are going to get together during NFT NYC next week. I'm excited to go.
Yes.
I'm headed to the Nolcha event with Gamma and a bunch of ordinals communities. Do you know of other get-togethers in the space
Well, I'm gonna be.
that are happening? I think the Runestones community is definitely getting together, but I'm not a stone holder, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm. I'm definitely going to be feeling the FOMO because I will not be going, unfortunately. So I haven't been following all of the events as closely, just because I'll get too sad. But yeah, I think there are definitely some events. I know, yeah, the Nolcha one is going to be huge. There's going to be the Taproot Wizards are having and a couple of events actually, that definitely am jealous of anybody that's going to that. Um, so yeah, there's definitely a lot. I feel like almost the side events are better than like the main event a lot of the time. So I'm sure there's many more.
Totally. Yes, I'm trying to figure out which events to go to that aren't between 10 p.m. and like 3 a.m. because I just can't stay up very
I
late.
hear you there. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let me do like a 4 p.m. event, and then be done at 9 p.m. and then that's it.
That would be nice. Have a good night's sleep and then
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I just saw that Kasich joined. We also have Sabir. Sabir, if you want to come up as well, please feel free. For those that don't know, Chris is the GM at Console, and wanted to have a little bit of an opportunity for us to talk about Console. They've had some really cool events, or really cool announcements lately. Events as well. I know you were down casting in at South by Southwest, and there was a lot of cool merch that was being given out there. So, um, yeah, we'll definitely try to bring you up, and yeah, in the meantime, um, yeah, Bitcoin halving still a thing. Countdown is on. I'm still pretty. It still looks like it's happening on 420, which that's the meme, right? So be interesting.
That has other significance. I wonder if there will be like an ordinals community around like 420.
There are probably already many of them. There's going to be some 420 runes for sure, and yeah, I'm sure there will be. But the one thing that's interesting, I think I saw Trevor post this out. To he said that it's 420. It's the date is a palindrome also, so it's 0420, and then it's also 2024. So like the way that it's formatted, it's a palindrome, and it's like the same front to back, which is interesting little tidbit. So it'd be a significant date for that to happen on. But let's see, Chris, I'm trying to bring you up. I don't know if it's if Twitter Spaces are rugging us as they often do. Oh, there we go. Let's see. Hey, welcome to the show.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks.
Yeah. So I actually have a few things that I wanted to talk to you about with Console. You feel like you guys have been announcing a lot of stuff lately, so definitely want to make sure that I highlight everything. First thing, I mean, congratulations on surpassing 5,000 users. That was just announced, and yeah, that's amazing. Seeing the growth, especially this year. I feel like the past couple months have been really big for Console, so that's amazing.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, great to be here. I know everyone in this room by name, so everybody knows Console, at least here, although I assume maybe some people will be listening in the recording afterwards, and I don't know who they are yet, so hello, people in the future. But yeah, everyone here, I think knows about Console, but yeah, I don't know what would be interesting or helpful or, happy to give some updates, happy to have an open dialogue, happy to hear feedback. I don't know. Yeah, it's just happy to be here on a Friday with y'all.
Yeah, I mean, pretty relaxed, kind of a hangout kind of thing. If anybody does have any questions, feel free, to request and come up and speak. Definitely happy to, to field any questions. But yeah, maybe Chris, just to start with.
I have a
Oh, go ahead,
question.
please.
Oh, yeah. No, Chris has educated me so much on. I just think it's useful to hear from you, like your views on the Web3 messaging space and um, how to give users value and how to give communities value in their messaging experience and like how you got into this in the first place.
Cool, Shelly. Yeah, great to dive into that. Oh man, so much to unpack. I feel like I have a bit of a contrarian view these days, or unpopular opinion about Web3, and I think I had a moment in the last 6 months of last year where I just felt like I've been working in this space. I mean, for a few years now, but definitely a supporter of Bitcoin and Bitcoin L2s. I mean, I know Gina and I were there in like 2016 or something, like rallying as Stacks was being built. So, I have a long history in this, and all that to say, I've just seen hype cycles come and go so many times that when it came to think about communities and what we're building, I felt like I feel like there was a bit of a struggle across the industry to say, hey, world, come to Web3. There's this thing called Web3, and we have our own language, and we have our own, um, like, all the inside jokes and everything, and you have to come because it's really cool. And I think that worked for a while. I mean, Web3 made it to SNL. There's like an SNL skit about NFTs like 2 years ago. I mean, it hit the mainstream. Um, but what I started to notice in the past 6 months, because we were doing user research at Console, which I'm just obsessed with user research for any product anyone's building, just talking to users, is that when I was talking with people outside of Web3 and doing these like hour-long interviews, the feedback was like, ugh, like I would never use Console specifically because it says this Web3 thing, or even like really subtle things like in our art that we were showing on our homepage, we had like it was all NFTs and like a few of them were apes, and it was like, what's this ape thing, Um, and so I just had this moment, and again, a bit contrarian, like, and I'm very optimistic and building towards. I think we're all on the same page here. It's just maybe I'm looking at a different path where I had this moment of, hey, I don't think it's about bringing the world to Web3. I think it's about bringing Web3 to the world. And I just like kind of switched in how we saw that. And for us, that meant just really making it easy to join Console. And it really, I mean, we have email login and phone number login, and if you go back to Twitter Spaces from a year ago, I'm talking about how like that's the devil and I would never do that. And I know I share that because I humbly think that as you're building products, you need to like, you're like little I'm a little scientist listening to people and building and trying to like figure out, like what is the reality, because in some ways I think we can fight good fights like with Bitcoin L2s, and we can create a new reality and bring people to that. And then there's some fights where I think it's like you kind of have to meet people where they are. And I think finding that balance is really important. Like, for example, if you look at Nostr, which is a messaging protocol, which is a lot of Bitcoiners use, really high bar to entry, really high barrier where it's like, come here or else F you, like literally. And, you can talk to, and I'll just quote, like even Dan Held, I talked to about Noster, who's like a super Bitcoiner. You think he would like definitely be into that, and he was like, no, I don't know why I would use that, because it's just the onboarding, and it's like high walls of high barriers of entry, and so yeah, I think that's just been the big aha moment for me, and so we really just want to like bring Web3 to the rest of the world when it comes to messaging communications, like you're saying, Shilly, like kind of what you tapped tapped on me to answer about. And I think that's just been our journey, and I think it's been working really well over the past few months since we started in this direction. We're just seeing a lot more adoption out in the real world, and I'm really happy about that.
That's amazing. And something like messaging is actually it's really hard to disrupt messaging. I think even harder than like fintech apps or maybe not payment apps, but because so many people are just it's about the network, right? Wherever the network is, it's not like you can tell your friend, okay, download this and then I'll message you. Like everybody has Telegram, everybody has Signal, everyone has WhatsApp, and then iMessage. There's like three or four maximum messaging apps that you have. And then for developer conversations and community around that, like there or ordinals communities, there's like Discord and other things, right? So it's just really hard to move people away from where their networks are existing to, try something new. And I'm curious to know like what's worked well for you guys in bringing communities to your platform.
Yeah, it is really hard to disrupt messaging. I think it's one of the hardest things. The more I talk with people who have been building products for decades, because again, like history rhymes and this is nothing new. Like, there's always been this challenge, but creating new networks is one of the hardest things. And nobody wants to download a new app. Like nobody wants to, like by default, no one wants to download console. Like that's their like default. Like I'm very aware of that. Like, it's so that's part of the challenge, I think, is solving some problem or bringing enough value that people look at what we're building and they go, okay, yeah, that's worth it. Like it has to be like 10x better in certain ways, or it has to solve a real specific problem. I think like a tool that's going to solve a specific problem, and then people might come to solve that problem and stay for the network. But no one wants to just join a new network to join a new network. And I get that. And I think that that's like a big part of the challenge. And I think, I know, I can see, like our team can see the big picture 5 years from now of where this is all going. Like there's so much value and like we're on our way toward that. I mean, just for example, like the paradigm shift of what everyone in this room is building at Trust Machines or building on Bitcoin, we're creating a completely different paradigm of communication with our assets where we're owning and sending assets to other people. And in that ownership process, there's a new level of security and privacy that we have to respect that will bring the real world to the real world. Like, for example, we ourselves can't even handle the security of these tools. Like Kevin Rose last year, if you guys saw this Moonbirds, I mean, he was hacked for like 40 million. I don't know how much it was, like a crazy amount of money. Because he like lost his keys or he clicked on a link. Like, so again, how do we bring Web3 to the rest of the world? Well, first we have to like kind of update ourselves enough to make sure that this is secure enough and trustworthy enough. And I think communications are a part of that. So looking forward 5 years in the future, this is like a given because the current systems of Telegram and Discord and like they're just not built for this, like from the ground up. And so I can see the big picture, but short term, it's challenging. And yeah, I really really support everyone. Really thank everyone for supporting us so early on who can see that big picture, because I think it's not easy to like imagine this new future that's coming.
That was amazing. Brandon, I don't want to hog the mic
No,
here. Do you have any
no, this is
questions?
great. It's a great conversation. I think I really resonate with that. I feel like I resisted for so long to download like WhatsApp and like just like you're saying, Chris, like all these other apps that like, I don't want to necessarily have to download an app, right? But uh all my friends were using this app or all of my coworkers were using this app. So I kind of felt like I needed to. So it's that community part of it is really what helps to, you know, push me over the edge, right? In terms of like going to download the app and actually using it because that's where my friends are, or that's where my community is. So it's that network effect I think is just so important in the growth of these types of apps.
Yeah, Brandon, you hit on it for sure. I mean, I downloaded Telegram because I wanted to buy drugs. No, that's a joke. I'm just kidding. But a lot of people I'm just making jokes. I downloaded Telegram because a friend of mine said, "Hey, let's use Telegram." But a lot of people, they'll do it for that, or they'll download Signal because they want to have like a super private conversation. Like there's some inciting incident that like causes them to do it. But that's tricky because there's a lot of things bearing for our attention these days. And I think that's why we're seeing a lot of promise with events that we're doing. And so if anyone here is throwing any events coming up, starting in May, we're going to start having ticket sales on console. And I think that is going to be a great gateway because you'll be able to register people for in real life events. But also we have audio and video in beta on console. And so it'll be a great way to register people, use token gating for loyalty. If they come to a lot of your events, great, cool. You'll be able to see that like through giving POAPs or whatever that kind of thing is. But the main takeaway is like having a place where Web3 people or non-Web3 people can easily join an event and then have that chat component. And then over time, once enough people are on console, it becomes a lot less scary because they're like, yeah, that's where everybody is, So that's kind of the hurdle. I think that's like our hurdle for the next 6 months is just onboarding enough people where it's not like, oh, I don't want to go like, start on another app.
Yeah, so that is a great point about bringing different communities. I know you're probably not thinking of like TradFi or FinTech or people that work in that space as a community you want to bring on to this like cool, hip, messaging platform. But I will let you know that banks were fined like for 549 million for using Signal and WhatsApp to like do private secure messaging. So like regulators are charging companies money for just having private conversations, which I'm like, that's ridiculous. I don't know that's ridiculous. Like people should have the right to have private communications. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know where the whole thing stems from. But there is a large business community that wants private secure messaging.
When I was at Y Combinator a long time ago, 2013, it was right around the Snapchat days, but before Signal. And with Y Combinator, like they were the lawyers, like we were using Snapchat because it would delete your messages afterwards. I feel like people will go and find things and like get like, so the banks are getting fined for using Signal. It's like people are, I mean, this is like a long history of look at Napster and the record industry. It's like, okay, like you don't do this, we're gonna fine you. We're gonna fine you. All right, people are just gonna go. It's like whack-a-mole. People are gonna go find something else. So, I don't know. I know nothing about regulation. I mean, like I'm not lobbying for it. I don't know anything like to fight that fight. But I do know that like there's a lot of people who are building privacy is becoming a much more leading issue, whether it's with WhatsApp, and encryption. Apple is I'm in Williamsburg. There's Apple ads about privacy. Like I think by default there's going to be so many options out there. But I do think things like Telegram and Discord, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of players that like even Slack, don't have any of this built in by default. And so, yeah, I think there's an opportunity.
I love that. I love that the using Snapchat. That's so funny. It kind of reminds me of it's a little relevant with the SBF sentencing that happened this week. But I remember folks speculating that he was playing this like online game all the time as like online card game, and people were speculating that he was actually all of his like communication at this point was like cut off, but he was still able to play this card game. And people were like speculating that he was communicating with people through the card game, and he was actually using the card game as a messaging platform because he had no other option. So I don't know if that's true or not, but I thought that was pretty funny.
I like that.
So I know you've had a few other things that have been announced recently. I'd love to talk a little bit more about the Artisan Fund. Chris. I've seen you posting a lot about that, and I'd love to, for our audience as well, to hear maybe a little bit more about that, maybe and how they might be able to get involved with it. And yeah, we'd just love to hear more about that.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for asking. Artisan, I love Artisan. Artisan is essentially, it's kind of like imagine Kickstarter for creatives in Web3. But then there's a lot of really nice things on top of it where you can do crowdfunding for your project, but there's also some shared ownership of people um, who fund it to get some kind of like artifact, is what they call it. So some kind of like equity in the project. And they also have a really nice system set up where companies or anyone can sponsor what's called match funds. And so let's say, basically in February, we saw some artists, raise even just small amounts like $2,000. And then that amount was matched. So it would be some people that raised 2,000 got like $3,000 or $4,000. Like you get like basically a bonus if you do certain things. So what are those certain things? So there's like a dozen match funds you can qualify for, and like we have one, so Console has one. So essentially it's like if you raise money on Artisan for your community and then you bring that community to Console, we have a match fund in place up to $20,000 where we will basically match. So it's not always double, but it's a certain percentage. It kind of depends on how much you raise, and there's also a voting component. So at the end of they have seasons. It's like it lasts like 3 months, the season. So the season 4 is happening right now. And basically by, I think, April 31st, it depends on how much you raise. And then also there's like a voting component amongst the community. And then like the highest voters will also get like a little extra bonus. So there's a little bit of like math in the background, but all that to say, it's a great way to raise money, whether you're an artist, a Web3 community, or, even just like open source projects. Like it's pretty broad on how you raise money or what you raise it for, but you also do have to apply. So yeah, and you can apply on their site at artisan.fund, or on Console. They're at /artisan on Console.
That's awesome. I love I feel like we get this a lot just in the ordinals space as well. There's so much, like, people just want to support each other, right? So like just the vibes of like being able to, like, just people supporting artists and like creators and builders. I love all the support that this community generally offers. So that's really cool. And I pinned the announcement tweet to the space as well for anybody that wants to learn a little bit more on how to get potentially involved with that, because yeah, it's a very, very awesome program.
Thanks, Brandon. Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm also DM me if you have questions. Happy to answer questions. We ran through. We did last season, which was season 3, which was December, January, and February, and yeah, we had a lot of really successful projects come out of it. So it's cool. It's super cool to see.
That's awesome. We've kind of touched on some of the points already, but you recently also published a blog post on how to build a trustless internet, and would love to maybe just keep it open and let you talk about that a little bit in terms of what kind of inspired you to write this post, and we can get into some of the, I guess, the pillars of that a little bit more.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about, and I'm not sure how long this space runs, so I might just give a quick summary. But I feel like I would love at some point. Well, I think on the Console we're gonna have a hour just dedicated to talking about building a trustless internet. I think we'll do that in 2 Mondays from now. So look out for that if you want to have a discussion, because I do think it's an open discussion of how do we build a better internet. And really, the post came, highly influenced by the early days of Blockstack. I don't know if how many, I don't know how how much we remember, how much people know, but Blockstack, which became Stacks, was like the leading thought leadership in building Web3 in like 2016 and 2017, maybe 2018, 2019 too, around there. There was conferences, Blockstack conferences that Muniv and Gina and a lot of other people ran. And like the names were just like, I mean, it's Balaji, it was Naval, it was like Kevin Rose, it was like everybody who became a thought leader in Web3. This is like 3 years before Web3. And in those rooms, there was the conversation around like 2016 to 2018. It was about like the way that China was using AI to censor communications within the country and like how we're thinking about that. It was about network state stuff to some degree, like how do we build different countries, but it was generally about like making the world, specifically like making the world better through the use of technology, almost academic at times. And that was really what pulled me into this space. I mean, that's where BNS came from, and this idea of like owning your identity, and like, the fact that if you use your BNS name on apps across the web, you're using an identity that no one can take from you. And that's something we take for granted when you look at, countries where your identity, or we look through history, look at the Holocaust and the way that identities were abused, look at China. And like, I mean, identity is so important. So, I was tying together a lot of ideas at once. But all that to say, like, these to me were the roots of this movement. And then came ICOs in 2018, and then came airdrops and DeFi summer. And all of this is great. And I was at the forefront of like writing about this and thinking about this and like pulling the casino lever, like, for years, so it's great. It's fun. And I think it's important for the space to have that. But the piece came to me from a bit of a frustration of like, well, how do we get back to, or like, who out there cares about like security, decentralization, privacy, without the airdrop, like obviously console could have an airdrop. Like I'm aware of that. And like, I'm sure we'd make $10 million like overnight, I'm sure, or whatever, something. But like I've resisted doing those things because I'm not yet convinced they set the right incentivizations. If you look at, I mean, full support for experiments and people in this industry. So not putting anyone down, but if you look at though, like a lot of the experiments in Ethereum or with things that have airdrops, I feel like you see a sugar high for like 6 months or a year, and then like kind of fades. The token becomes kind of, whatever, it's just in your wallet. There's a secondary market. There's a lot of scams. Like, I'm not convinced. Like, again, thinking about what I would say is my mission of bringing Web3 to the rest of the world and thinking more long term over 5 to 10 years. I'm not totally convinced that that is like how we build products people love and how we like change the world in a positive way. So, that's kind of where this idea of trustlessness came from. I wanted to just use a word that was different than Web3, but a word that's also been around for a decade. Bitcoin is the first app or protocol that I've ever heard of that used the word trustless, meaning it can operate without, any third party interfering, basically. Like two people can send money and without an intermediary. You don't have to trust, right? Like the way that we trust Twitter right now, not to rug our space, the way that we trust our banks to not inflate our money or to hold our money for us. With Bitcoin, it's amazing. You don't have to trust anyone because you trust everyone. You trust the entire network, right? And that's really, really powerful. And so coming back to that idea of trustless, I feel like how to explain what we're building at Console. I feel like we're doing so much deep work into building infrastructure or apps for the new, not infrastructure. We're building on infrastructure. We're building our app on infrastructure, just to be clear, for the next internet. And it's like, how do we describe that? I feel like saying Web3 in some ways cheapens it because people, like I said, outside of the space, think we just mean we're going to do an airdrop. They think we just mean we're going to all be like at an ape party, which is great. Like those things are great, but we're doing a lot more. And so I feel like the word trustless, it's the same as like permissionless. It's the same idea, but trustless kind of encompasses that. And so that's where this piece came from. I've been writing a lot about that and talking a lot about that. And I developed these 5 pillars, which are like, these are the 5 things that we are working toward, because also it is a journey of something to work toward, I think, not to do day one. And so that's what the whole mission of trustlessness is about.
I love that. I actually remember I had no awareness of Stacks or anything at the time. Well, Stacks didn't even exist at the time, but I live in the Bay Area, so I remember seeing the Blockstacks billboard, which was near Google's campus, and Google had the famous slogan of "Don't be evil," and the billboard it said on the billboard said "Don't be evil," but "Don't be evil" was crossed out, and it said "Can't be evil." And that was sort of the slogan for Blockstacks, and I remember that like that was a really powerful like billboard, even though at the time I didn't really know what that was. So I just remember driving by it and seeing that.
Yeah, no, me too. That was all Munib and Gina and the team. Super, super cool. I found that very, very inspiring. And Munib has written a post by that name, Can't Be Evil, from 2017, which I think explains that mission, which is it's all very related, I would say. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. I also it's a really small thing, but I really love how you're formatting it so it's not trustless, it's sort of like trustless. How you feel about Web3, I feel kind of similar in terms of like that word has lost a lot of its meaning. I almost feel like trustless is losing a little bit of its meaning, especially when people talk about like L2s. I don't think any L2 can be trustless. That's my hot take. Yeah. I guess.
I agree. And I am all for these conversations and saying things that are maybe awkward or maybe we don't know. I mean, at least that's what I want to encourage. So yeah, you saying that you feel that way, I think it's worth exploring. And I think we all need to be aligned is really what the goal is, as best we can be, if we're going to make a movement that's going to, again, reach outside the borders of the 100,000 people in Web3. And the more I explore, it's like people don't really like the fact that you're even thinking about that is like a really high level, and that's awesome. Like, I think those are great questions. And then the question becomes like, okay, like Bitcoin L2s aren't fully trustless, right? Is what you're saying, right? So how do we measure that? Like, how do we decide if that's true or not? And then there's not really a definition. And so that's kind of what I was trying to do. And I am open. Like I wrote at the bottom, hey, this is a living doc. Like, let's work on this together. But there are some precedent. Like, I didn't make this out of nowhere. Like, there are precedents over the past 10 years to do this. So I tried to just frame it with these 5 things, but then we can start to weigh and say, yeah, and that's why I said it's like trust less. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Because there can be a spectrum of trust. I don't know that everything needs to be like 100% no trust, because even Bitcoin, Sybil, like there's still issues like where you would have to trust people, Sybil attacks if you're in pools, mining pools, like there's all things, and my point is you're totally right, and then it becomes understanding trust is on a spectrum, and then how do we measure that trust? Like that's kind of like the next logical step, so that we can like weigh how we want to make better decisions and what we want to support.
Yep. I could not agree more. I think, even Bitcoin is not fully 100% trustless. And I don't think it's really possible to get to something that is fully 100% trustless. I think, as if it's a network that you are not the sole controller of, I just don't think that that's possible. So it's definitely a spectrum. I think I'm speaking, I think, more on just like specifically with Bitcoin L2s, whenever Bitcoin L2s say, oh, they're the first trustless Bitcoin L2, like, I feel like I see people say that a lot, and like, no, you're not. Like, there is trust involved. Like, I think, some of these, like, we should probably do like a whole episode on this, but I think there's a lot of, there's trust assumptions with everything. And I think I appreciate the layers that are more upfront about, well, this is this is what our trust model is, or this is how it kind of works. I think Stacks is like a good example of like Munib is very upfront and honest about, about stacks, and especially like with the Nakamoto release and how, you know, SBTC works and bridging in and out. Like there's no such thing as a trustless bridge, you know, like that's not a thing. But, you know, you can be a little bit more transparent in terms of just outlining how it actually works. So yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot recently, just because I feel like there's this kind of new crop of like Bitcoin L2s that are coming out. Um, you know, and I'm just seeing like some marketing that is not, I guess, the most authentic out there. I did want to bring up, we've had a couple people that have requested to speak. Dave, I know you've had your hand raised for a while. You were welcome to the show. You know, you're graduated from listener to speaker. I know you joined us last week to listen in, but yeah, welcome.
Thanks, Brandon. I appreciate it, man. I love what you guys are obviously doing here. I think this is great. This is definitely what's needed. I love these kind of conversations. Shaylee, like, how are you? Like, it's good to chat with you again. Castille, what's up, my guy? It's been a minute, man. I go to the way back early ENS days with Castille and the spaces you were running with Evan. Man, it's coming. But I mean, I have probably so many things. You guys covered such an array of stuff. But I'll try and get through it. I might jump around a little bit, but just to comment on a couple of things. So, Cassie, if you do drop a token, by the way, I think obviously, like, on the face, everyone's like, oh, well, you need users, right? Yeah, you need users, but like, I guess the question for you is like, do you actually really need users, and how fast do you want to grow, right? Like, people that are doing these huge airdrops either have like a piece of tech that is so ingrained within either, you know, let's say a DeFi ecosystem, right? The protocol is so revolutionary that they're like, we got to get everybody to use this. So they raise a bunch of money and boom, you know, like they're issuing like 15% of their supply and they're distributing it to their community. So I guess it all depends for you. Is like, are you getting enough feedback on your platform? Are you growing at the pace that you want to grow? And because I don't think necessarily like it's just, I get you on the sugar high thing, especially now, because I'm running spaces that you should hear some of the wild airdrop, just some of the stories, man. It is absolutely crazy. So I am with you. Um, but yeah, so quick comment on that one. And yeah, the trustlessness part, I think by definition, a layer, just calling it a layer two kind of adds that component to it, of not being like not having like full trust. And I agree with you, Brandon. I don't think we're there yet. But my main question, and I don't want to, Kessie, I don't want to take away from what you guys were talking about. So if you want to table this and we can kind of come back, was I was hoping I can maybe get a little bit of help when it comes to Leather Wallet. When essentially right now, like, I'm working with the Welsh team. If you guys know, like, the first like dog coin or meme coin on Stacks and yada yada. That whole amazing narrative, and I love those guys. I love the community. They literally took the project over and whatever. I want to try and help these guys like get on either different exchanges and make it accessible to more people. And the idea that I had was, well, why don't we integrate with MoonPay? Right. And I saw that Leather has an amazing offering, not offering, but you guys are integrated with all of like the top exchanges, both in and outside the US, um, via like MoonPay. And I was curious, like, how do we get Welsh to be an option when somebody has a wallet, like a Leather wallet? And in addition to saying just Bitcoin and Stacks, because we're already integrated with Stacks, can we get it to say Welsh?
Shaylee, I don't know. I think I'm gonna have to throw that to you.
Yeah, let's talk, Dave. Let's coordinate on the back end here and figure this out together.
I'm so down. I'm so down. Yeah, anything that we can do to be able to to push this forward, I think would be ginormous. And sorry if you, Shaylee, I don't know if my Twitter has been really glitching out, so I don't know if somebody doesn't turn off their mic. I always think that they're talking, so I always think that I'm rugging. So if you were speaking and I talked over you, I apologize.
You did not. You feel free to keep going. I was just saying, I'll DM you and like let's chat about this some more and see what we can do.
Okay, awesome. Oh yeah, it wasn't me. I just saw the host is having connection issues. Okay. But yeah, no, that would be super helpful, Shaylee. Thank you very, very much, because I think that opens the door to so much. Because the easier onboarding can be, I mean, think about how many different like coins and communities can really benefit. The ones that are actually doing really cool stuff. Oh, Kestik, I did have one more question for you in the Artisan Fund. That's what it was. A, why have I never heard of this before? And B, who do I got to talk to? Because I have amazing ideas that can revolutionize humanity. Now, I really do have some pretty dope stuff that like people that I'm working with, different companies, protocols, DAOs, that I think can really benefit from something like this.
Yeah, Artisan launched, I think, about a year ago, and came to console soon after. They've been one of the biggest early supporters. And yeah, if you want to learn more about their project, I think in total, the last season, which was December, January, February, I think in total there was like $250,000 raised, and a certain percentage of that was matched. And yeah, it's a really great engine.
Thank you for listening. We record Good for Bitcoin live every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on X. Please follow us at Trust Machines Co. if you would like to listen and engage with us live. Visit us at trustmachines.co for all the latest Bitcoin news. We'll see you next week.